Cathy, it's good to have you joining us. It's been a while since
Thank
we saw
you.
you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Nice
it's
to
been
be
a
with
while.
you, ladies. Yeah, buddies.
Today we're
Good to see you
speaking
too,
about
Anne.
teen pregnancy, girls' lives interrupted. By the end of this conversation, if we take at least 30 minutes or more than 30 minutes, about 700 girls under the age of 18 will have been married off, which, when you think about it in those terms, is quite depressing and very disturbing. So that's what we're going to talk about. And before we start our conversation, just some quick facts from the World Health Organization. Approximately 12 million girls aged 15 to 19 years and at least 777,000 girls under 15 years give birth each year in developing regions. At least 10 million unintended pregnancy occur each year among adolescent girls aged 15 to 19 years in the developing world. Complications during pregnancy and childbirth are the leading cause of death for 15 to 19-year-old girls globally. Of the estimated 5.6 million abortions that occur each year among adolescent girls aged 15 to 19 years, 3.9 million are unsafe, contributing to maternal mortality, morbidity, and lasting health problems. Adolescent mothers ages 10 to 19 years face higher risks of eclampsia, and a couple of other things that happen more than women aged 20 to 24 years. And babies of adolescent mothers face higher risks of low birth weight, preterm delivery, and severe neonatal conditions. So I wanted to start with that so it paints the picture of just how serious what we're going to talk about actually is. So ladies, where does it all begin for you? Where do you see the problem? Is it the lack of the right to choice, lack of sexuality education, lack of education, sexual violence, pressure to marry culture? Where does it begin?
Personally, I'm looking at three things: the issue of poverty, the issue of culture, and also conflict. And when I talk about conflict, it could be conflict in a home, but it could be an emergency. Like right now, we are having a pandemic, COVID-19, and
Yeah.
if you read all the newspapers, watch TV, listen to radio. And some of us as UNICEF, when you visit the districts, you see that communities are grappling with the issue of the increased teenage pregnancies. Parents, I think, don't know what to do at this moment of time when the schools are, shut. Many people believe that children are safe, especially the girls are safe when they are in schools. But now they're in the community, loitering around, helping with maybe domestic work. Believe that when a girl is grown up or when a girl has developed breasts, they've started menstruation periods, then they are ripe for marriage. That in a way drives them to see that the children become pregnant, because you see child marriage and teenage pregnancy are very linked. You can't delink the two. So, but for me, I look at the issue of the culture. How do we change our social norms to educate and sensitize our communities, our parents, our guardians, to let them know that keeping girls in school, even now when the schools are closed, the girls can still stay at home, and once the schools are open, then they can resume their education.
Yes, Kathy. You raise a pertinent points, especially when you say child marriage as well as teenage pregnancy, all interlinked, because child marriages lead to teenage pregnancy. Because the girls who are mostly married, under child marriage bracket, they're all under 18, and you'd be shocked to see that most of them are under 15, which is really, really sad. Children are becoming mothers at 10 years of age. And Cathy, you've mentioned UNICEF, because maybe we didn't introduce Cathy to you properly, but she's a UN worker, and she's so passionate about children's rights, girls and young women's rights, as well as young boys, and education in general. And education is so important because the chances of a teen becoming pregnant who is not educated are 5 times much higher than one who is educated. True. So you can imagine that. So education is so important. We are not getting that education. I don't know what is happening in our country. I'm sorry, I've started blaming our country again. But yes, it's happening. There's a lot of child marriage going around. Trust me, when I was doing some series on child marriages with Catherine, I went to this village in Kamule. Was it in Kamule? And this woman was like, Mama, me, I got married at 13. She's like, she's just married at 14. And she was like, this is an advancement. And the woman was okay with it. So I was like, wow, look at how sad this is. And in Busoga region, it's so horrible, by the way. It's just terrible. And there's that imbalance, in all regions. I know you've talked about, Josephine story about the statistics, which are in, global. But in Uganda, there are about 25%, teenage pregnancies. attributed. That is quite a big number. Of course, it has come down from 31% in about 2011, but it's still really very high. Childbearing also varies, of course, by region, and there's that imbalance as we talk about, the inequality in all regions. For example, it's as high as 30 to 31% in North Central Bukedi, Teso, Toro. My friend Carol Ariba, who really loves documenting teen pregnancies and, things happening to teenagers, we really have talked about this so passionately, and she comes from, one of the regions that I've listed. So, and in places like Chigezi, Kampala, 16-17%, also very high. Why should it be that high? What is happening? For me, I think there is a problem, and it all stems from, oh God, the P word, patriarchy. Society, society has just, and it's happening to young girls, by the way, because it's us who are affected. Because once a girl gets pregnant, it's probably the end of you. The boy, well, life continues. They continue to go back in school. For you, get pregnant, they're going to kick you out. Your family wants to kick you out. Everyone hates on you, So it's a lot of issues. Poverty, as I was already mentioned, it's a huge, huge problem. People are selling off their children for a bar of soap. Like this woman This woman I talked about. Trust me, she just told me, kilo of sugar, a kilogram of this, a bar of soap. I was like, oh my God. Even, those are things sometimes which make me feel guilty when I spend my money. Because I think of what these people need, and I'm like, wow. I've got another girl, she was, she just turned 20, and she was like, I'm on my 4th pregnancy. So I was like, wow, when did she start giving birth?
You're like, what am I doing?
And that's the other thing. Once you start giving birth as early as, when you're a teen, the chances of you giving birth to many children are so numerous. And that brings in the health issues that Josephine has mentioned, everything affecting young girls. So we need to do something about it. We need to stop burying our heads under the sun. And that's when, I'll come to the issue of talking about sexuality education. Anne, let's give us your view, probably.
All right. Yes, Anne, please.
Anne is in shock at everything that is being said. It's every time I hear about the rate of teenage pregnancies in Uganda and all over the world, it's kind of shocking. It's a lot of children. Actually, we shouldn't even call them teenagers because it's kind of
they're children.
And makes it look okay, but these are children. There are a lot of children getting pregnant, so it's very sad. All the reasons have been said. Most of them are rooted in poverty, in culture. And of course, men who make them pregnant, the patriarchy, like she said. Josephine.
When I was trying to read up ahead of our conversation today, and I found, I don't know if it was World Health Organization or UNICEF or someone who had just termed it all under Girls' Lives Interrupted. I think for me, I think it gave more prominence to when you talk about teenage pregnancy, because when you say teenage pregnancy, it just feels so far removed from people who are not teenagers, people who don't have teenagers, people who are, it's none of their business. But when they say Girls' Lives Interrupted, it actually just sort of flashed through my eyes like, that's it, like you get pregnant. I think people underscore just how much your life changes once you get pregnant, once you have a child, whether you actually have the child or not. There's just so much change that happens with you emotionally, physically, and in every other way. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation. Does any of you have a story that's close to home, maybe that you can share that can help whoever is joining us get a picture or an understanding of what we are talking about when we say Girls' Lives Interrupted? Florence has that look on her face. I don't know if Florence, you've heard the stories of just about everything. Anyone, Cathy, do you have a story to share with us that paints an exact picture of what we're talking about?
I think, not something that maybe that is close home or in Kampala, but recently we wanted to document one of the programs that is funded by the European Union and the UN. Generally, it's called the Spotlight Initiative. And when we went to Kitgum, the probation officer was telling just in June, 1,519 girls below the age of 18 had gone to visit a doctor for antenatal care. Imagine. And those are the documented ones, because 1,519
just
girls
in June
below the age of 18. In June, during the COVID lockdown. Yes. And that is the documented one, because the officer mentioned that not all of the cases are documented.
No, of course. No.
So they are worried, that when the schools open up, the girls will not be in school. Like,
Yeah.
they're
Most
pregnant
definitely.
already. So they are calling upon the religious leaders, the cultural leaders, because these are, you know, champions that we could engage to see that we send out positive messages, you know, encouraging the parents. But also the other issue that probably came out is for the families that are struggling, is there a way we can do like social protection where they have income, you know, generating activities that they look up to, so that they don't feel like maybe when I marry off my girl, then I am going to fight poverty? Because I mean, you get a cow and then you still sell it, and then the poverty will still be there. Yeah,
It's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's a cycle.
Cathy has jumped us to
sorry.
solutions. And before the rest of you come in with your own solutions, Anne or Florence, does any of you have a story of maybe a girl in your neighborhood or
Yeah.
My sister.
You and my sister too.
I really hope your sisters know you're actually going to talk about this on the show, because if you're shocking them with their lives here, they're going to hate us for nothing.
Oh, my baby sister, don't hate me. I love you. You know I love you so much.
Okay, please proceed.
I'm proceed.
Yeah, so my sister had a baby. She got pregnant at 13 and had a baby at, I think she was still 13 or 14. Yes, and I am the eldest girl in the family, so I was tasked with the responsibility of looking after her initially, and also I'm the one who confirmed the pregnancy. I did suspect, I was very naive, but I confirmed the pregnancy. I took her for a medical check. My mother was suspicious and said, I think she's pregnant. I'm like, Mama, also you can, I know how my mother nags you and always imagines that somehow you're going to get pregnant or something like that. I had been through the process of her being suspicious, I think, of boys and men, and I'm turning out to be the same thing. So, yes, those men need no good.
That's the thing about parents.
Keep Juna safe.
African parents, we're not suspecting.
Yeah, but she was so young. She was in S1. She was going to S, but she had just gone to S2. So I was like, no, she can't be pregnant. I even first did the shopping for her before taking her for a medical checkup. And then she was pregnant, and she was like 6 months pregnant. It was yes, it was extremely shocking. I didn't know how to behave. Everyone was surprised. And of course, abortion was on the table. And like all these things were going on, decisions were being made. My parents didn't want to get embarrassed. Can you imagine? It's still associated with embarrassment. Of course, the girl couldn't make up her mind because she was a child. She didn't know what to do. And it was very, all I want to say is that the process, it disrupts the whole family, but mostly, of course, the child suffers most. At the end of the day, she managed to we got assistance from Wakisa, and they took her in, though they have their issues now that I know about, but they took her in until the time she had the baby. And then from that time, she looked after the baby for 4 months, and then she went back to school, and she has graduated, and she's working, and she's doing well. The child is doing well. He's about 12 now. He's in P7. Everything is back to normal. But that was a very disturbing experience. Very disturbing.
Does the child's father participate? Because, you know, when we say girls' lives interrupted with teenage pregnancy, we're thinking about the girls. And, you know, sometimes if the father is also a young person, it's, you know, I think there has to be a conversation about it in terms of also sexuality education and so on. So was he, you know, younger? Was he older? Is this information you can give us?
Do you even know him to date?
He was slightly older than her, but they were both young at the time.
Slightly older is like what?
I think he was about
18 or something?
17. He was between 17 and 19. I don't remember the details, but I wanted him imprisoned, arrested, and all that. But because he's from the village, yes, and I was speaking so toughly, but from here in Kampala, and they were saying, no.
Mona Kampala has said.
Me, I was very tough. I was like, I'm going to call and they are going to arrest him because I think he was arrestable. He was like 19 probably, or 18 at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but eventually my family overpowered me, and I didn't have the money and resources to chase that. I had to deal with the girl who was with me at the time, and then he never went to jail or anything. So every once in a while, they contribute some money and visit, but not much. Mostly the child is being cared for by us and the family of our family, not the other family. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, Florence.
Florence, okay. Florence, you need to start coming for this show with a hanky or a tissue or something.
No, seriously, you know what?
The Jamaican tissues, eh?
Well, on, guys, you know, yeah, man. This is the thing about teenage pregnancies. You know, I think, you know, I wasn't really understanding, but it's like, it's okay for parents to get frustrated, to get angry without judging them. But then again, then that's where I will come in that, you know, they should also play a role in making sure that, you know, have they done everything possible to talk to their teenage daughter, to talk to their daughters before teen years. Because now I'm talking about yours, because if she got pregnant at 13, at what age did she start engaging in sex, even before she was a teenager? Yeah. So you see, this is why it's important. And yes, I know parents, we are entitled to our anger, because I was practically a parent to my young sister, because you guys have told you it has been a sibling family. And then here is your teenage sister coming to tell you she's pregnant. Actually, you suspect it because first she's looking for money from everyone, borrowing. I'm like, what's this girl up to? And she wants to, you know, secure an abortion, you know. So you can imagine she would have gone even through the down waters. But like I say, we find out, then try to pursue the guy. Don't even know the guy. Right now, I still don't know the dad, you know, because he has never cared. It's like was just a donor, and that was it. I don't know anything about the guy to date. As much as, you know, I love my girl, who I treat as my own daughter. But yeah, everything is disrupted because now for us, it's a siblings family. It's just you know, who's caring for your sister. You want her to have an education. So you're not worrying about embarrassment, not because you don't care. There's no, like, you know, family or whatever, anyone to judge you. You're caring about the fact that you have to take care of yourself. Remember I told you that was what? My campus years, early years. So you're struggling to make a living, you know, to survive, to get through campus, you know, to make something out of your life. And then there's your younger sister who is coming with a pregnancy. So you're thinking, God, costs, everything. How are you going to take care of this? Is she dropping out of school? So yeah, it's quite a mess up for everyone. Yeah, the young girl who is pregnant is suffering as well. She's worried, she's freaking out. Should I procure an abortion? You're all discussing this. Someone says, okay, maybe she should give birth. I should take the baby. And you're like, are they even committed to taking the baby? You know, so it's just a freaky situation for both sides. And it's terrible. Yeah, it's just terrible. It's terrible, and that's why I strongly believe in talking to young girls about sexuality education from as early an age as possible, so that they make decisions, you know, about their bodies, and they would.
Flory.
But anyway, when you and Anne share those stories, so you know what was going through my mind? You mentioned before she actually got pregnant, you know, what was her sexual, you know, whatever, life like. But I'm also thinking about after you've had the baby, is anybody now thinking, because you can see what we're all thinking about, the cost, the expense of actually having a baby. We're thinking about school, we're thinking about all of that stuff. But the minute you've actually had a baby, whatever age it is, you sort of become an adult, whether you want to or not.
Exactly. If
you don't have some kind of sexuality education, your life is going to be a mess, because you know what? Now you feel like, you know, you're an adult who can just keep doing anything. But so I think we also need to look into that. What's actually being done, even with the ministries like Wakisa Ministries or other places where these girls go. When you have a child and you're coming out of that space and then going back into whether school or you're getting into motherhood and all of that, is somebody actually talking to you same way they speak to an adult after you've had a baby and they say, these are your options. Do you want to take on contraceptives? Do you want to, you know, this is what you do for your health?
Yeah, all that should happen. And you know, this is the thing, because Anne's and mine are success stories, because so many young girls are kicked out of their families. They're kicked out, even without knowing the guys who are responsible. Yeah, many. As long as she's pregnant, you're kicked out. In Tanzania, recently, their own president practically made it a law. Like, a pregnant girl should not attend school. Even after giving birth, that girl should not go back to school. You can imagine that coming from a president.
So that's a lost opportunity.
Lost opportunity. Because, you know, young girls, they can get out of this, you know. Because I sat down with my son, do you want to go back to school? Of course, she was embarrassed. She was, you know, what? But like, you know, school is important. And I gave her all scenarios, like, you want to end up, you know, I don't know, you know, just imagine, do you want to do this kind of job? Do you want to do this kind of job? Do you want? And she was like, well, I don't see a possibility of doing that. So like, if you don't see, so school is your only way out. You have your papers and you can use them, you know, anytime. So I practically make my sister go back to school, actually. Finish,
You know, Florence,
in A-level, go to university, because I sacrificed.
In thinking about the girls who now actually go through, who have the support of people who say, no, you have the baby, we'll take care of the child, or we'll help you through, we'll do whatever it is that we need to do. They're girls, I remember in school, we used to have all of these stories, and I remember one story that stuck with me was a girl finds out she's pregnant, and there's just no way she's going to face her parents. There's no way she just couldn't deal. There's no counseling. You can't go to a counselor in school here and start saying I'm pregnant. That's the end of you. They're going to finish you. So she, I think at that point, realized she had to take care of it on her own. So she got a hunger, and she, you know, she had an abortion at school. And there was, I think everybody was alerted to it because of the blood, the what. She got really, really sick. I don't even remember what happened to her at the end of it all. But I remembered that story for a very, very long time. Just how desperate girls will get.
It's devastating.
To get themselves out of a difficult situation. I mean, whether it, you know, people will say, but they put that on themselves. Why was she having sex at that age of, you know, whatever. Okay, whether she put herself in that situation or whether she was raped or put in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. She's a young girl.
You know, there's nowhere for her to go. I was looking at an advert on TV recently. I don't know when it last played, where this girl is trying to tell her mother that, you know, I could be pregnant or something. But she starts to talk about it, and her mother is saying, don't say things like that, you know, just shutting her up.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the girl has to, you know, go to a health facility, gets to the health facility. The health facility guys are like telling her, look at you, useless.
Everyone is judging.
You know, then you're going to go back to the guy who's supposed to be in this picture with you, and he's going to be like, by the way, that's none of my business. I don't know. Why didn't you take care of yourself? At the end of it all, you are alone, but you are not able to make decisions about your own body. Which takes me to my next question. How does teenage pregnancy affect girls in the long run? And so we're talking about health-wise, mentally, financially, career prospects, all of that, diseases, and all of that. I mean, it's a good thing all of you are health journalists. We have the right topic. I'm sure you all did a story on fistula at some point or something. How does it affect these girls? Let's paint a picture for the people who are listening in.
She's a young girl. She has a small body. She's not ready for pregnancy. She doesn't know. She doesn't even think. She doesn't, like I said, these young girls, they don't even know their own bodies. They don't even understand, you know, probably how babies are made. And then you're pushing her into this world. So definitely this is going to affect her, especially during birth, because we know for a fact that, you know, most young girls under the age of 19, 18, when they give birth, the chances of them having obstetric fistula are so much high. That, you know, stress in labor, you know, it's just horrible. And this is a condition where you get it and then everyone is ashamed of you. They don't want to talk to you. They isolate you. They, you know, it can't be avoided, you know. So there's lots. And of course, there's also opportunity like school, honestly. Like it's the end for most girls, especially in the villages. And most of our countries on the African continent are in rural areas. So most of those girls in rural areas, it's the end for them. People, you know, think about Kampala, they think that, I think now Kampala population has increased to like, what, 3 million? It used to be about 1.5. Maybe it has increased a bit. But how many Ugandans exist? Yeah, there are about 44 million Ugandans. And Uganda, honestly, we should care because we have a young population under 15 years of age. That is almost 50% of our population is under 15 years of age.
I think around 56, around there. Yeah.
So you can imagine. So you need to talk to these young girls and young boys. Like most of your population is young. They are going to have sex. They are having sex. Why not talk to them? So it's the end, really. And if you're not educated, what happens?
Guys, I think that for a lot of people, it is that I'll have that conversation at some point. I'll have it. All the schools are going to have that conversation with them. But now schools are out. You have a 13-year-old on your hands. You have a 10-year-old on your hands. You know, Anne has a 10-year-old in her house. We don't know if she's Anne. Who are you? Okay, Anne, I know you're having these conversations. Eden has actually given us proof that you are. But there are a lot of people who are not as bold as you are. There are people who, you know, their parents never told them any better. And I mean, none of us, our parents never told us. But somehow we've gotten this education and this confidence to do it. So
society.
who's actually speaking to our people now?
No. The thing is, we underestimate how naive and how young these children's brains are to actually understand these issues. It's not a one-time talk that you're going to have this conversation once, and then she will be prepared. She will know what to do. She will know what to say. She will know how to check off these unwanted advances, and if it push comes to shove and she must have sex, she will know how to demand for a condom and protection.
Yeah.
And she will have money to buy a condom, or there will be a condom available. You know, all these issues. Because every time I have this conversation with my daughter, she's 11, she has sort of forgotten what I just said. Like, I keep thinking how much of a baby she is. She is such a child. But, you know, the men are not looking at her as a baby. Some of them
exactly, yes, yeah.
They are saying, oh, she has these long legs, she's beautiful, what.
Mm-hmm.
As a child. But she's really so underdeveloped. Their brains are not yet mentally able to
ready.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we stop. We have to keep having the conversation in age-appropriate ways. Then I wanted to bring back my sister's example. When I took her for checkup, I don't think she knew what we were testing for. She didn't even bother. I don't think she even knew that she was pregnant. Up to today, she was like, she didn't know. She didn't know she was pregnant. I don't know even if she knows that she was having sex that could potentially lead to pregnancy. So
yeah. And I was going to ask you about if you guys, anyone in your family ever sat down with her, or maybe you, now that she's older and you know you're comfortable with each other, just to find out how she got into that situation. Was she prepared for it? Was she, you know, like, what was happening with her at that time?
No, she didn't share. She refused to share with us up to today.
Yeah.
But what was happening is that she was just becoming an adolescent, and my mother was having difficulties reining her in. And but my mother never told her anything, or my father told her anything about sexuality, about pregnancy and boys. But she was just she was these young teenagers who like to stay out, not stay out, but she was in the village actually, and that's where she met this guy, I think in primary school together or something like that. So it was a behavioral kind of thing, probably, which happens a lot in villages, because by 13, girls are getting married, girls are having sex and being pregnant.
That is true.
It's normal, like in the villages.
They took advantage of
do you see how for a lot of people that translates to a parent has failed?
Yes, of course.
And then how and then how a parent then feels like, I am going to hide the child, like, please leave my house. Go and stay with your auntie in the village because they're not going to embarrass us who are, you know. Because they're also ashamed of you know, the fact. But then also what I was going to say, Anne, when you were speaking, sometimes I don't think it's that the kids forget what we're talking about. It's that the conversation is uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Come off like a very uncomfortable conversation.
And they want
so you're talking half the time, they're just thinking, when does this end? When is she going to stop?
So they're not concentrating.
And if it comes as a threat, that's the problem. It comes as a threat. And parents have that thing of, I told you so. But what did you exactly tell me? You know? So
you warned me, you had a finger in my face.
I find that things like HIV, because at school they teach them
exactly
HIV and how it's spread. And she really fears HIV, and she thinks she's going to die. People will die when they have HIV. No, I tell her, no, you see, look here, HIV is not a death sentence anymore, but it's a bad disease. Because
it's a burden. It
has no cure. And I say, do you know how how people get HIV? Then you go into the conversation, things like that. There are always opportunities to talk about.
I think
about this
friendship. It's about friendship.
And actually,
be friends with your girls.
My question
and actually, if you not
all of us are very conscious about HIV growing up. The kids they know about HIV, but then somehow they're ignorant about
the teenage pregnancy.
You know, the teenage pregnancy. So it feels like there's a gap about how HIV is taught. I mean, you know, all things concerning AIDS are talked about.
It's the messaging.
Actually, you know, there's a part of it that's not coming out right, because
very well,
HIV gets both boys and girls. And remember, society caters to the males so much. You know, once anything affects the males, people are going to give it more attention than when it affects girls. Who is affected by pregnancy the most? It's the young
So
girls.
we have to stand out for the girls, you know?
Yes,
we have to stand out for the girls.
And I don't understand people who say, women's empowerment, you talk about women's empowerment. Yes, we have to talk about it because we have forgotten. Once a man, trust me, if a man were to bleed, if a man were to get that menstrual period, we would find a solution to ending this useless menstruation. Because it's useless menstrual blood. We don't need it. We would find a solution,
Flory,
and trust me, we're so bleeding. That is a bloody fact.
But
I think also the other thing, of course, we've talked about the parenting, but I think the other thing also, like the child protection response within our communities. For instance, Florence, if you're walking around, you find a young boy and a young girl in a corner, what would you do? Because I think there were days where a neighbor would be concerned, someone is, what are you telling the girl? But now everyone is like, okay, it's none of my business. And if a neighbor gets to know that they've seen a young girl and a boy, frequenting a particular place, they will not report. They will keep quiet. It's like, it's none of my business. So how do we bring back that community service where we care for one another?
Florence, before you say something, Cathy, you're asking Florence if she found a boy and a girl in the UK, in Jamaica, or please bring it home. Let's be sure we're talking about.
So Josephine, if you found, if in your neighborhood, if you came, no, Josephine, Anna, okay. So if you came around and you're moving around, taking your jog, evening walk, and then you find this young little, because I mean, you can imagine there's a case we visited in Namtumba, a 12-year-old fathered by a 13-year-old. You can imagine, and the 12-year-old actually gave birth normally. But the challenges were what happens after that. And this girl wanted to be a doctor. So she's regretting. She says, if I hadn't given attention to this young boy who diverted me, I would probably continue my education. And her message actually to us, to the girls, was like, if you have an opportunity to stay in school, please stay in school. If you have your parents, listen to what they have to tell you. Yeah. Yes, Flory.
Guys, this is the thing. Like I said, our children are always going to have sex. That is a fact. Yeah. We need to accept that. So I want, even when I see them in the corner, a boy and a girl, I want them, if they're going to have sex, I want them to have the knowledge about their bodies. I want them to know that they can use contraceptives, not running off and say, oh God, I spotted them, let me report them. What have you talked to them about? If they are talking and canoodling, are they discussing the fact that, okay, we are going to have sex, but do you have a condom? I should have a contraceptive, So that's the conversation I really want us to have right now, because we are not going to stop these young girls and boys from having sex. It is a fact we have to accept in this society of ours where we say, oh, morals, screw morals. Sex has come, sex is happening. You've seen the statistics, young girls and early child marriages are just so horrible, and they're happening in our community, yet approximately about 90%, this is from Plan International, about 90% of births, to girls aged 15 to 19 in developing countries occur in early marriages. 90%. Yeah. So we need to look into this. Even these girls who go into early marriages, we need to tell them that, you can talk to your man, you can go to a hospital and get a barrier against pregnancy. You don't have to start giving birth when you're so young, because it's all lost opportunities, So me, I want to see them in that corner. I don't want to go rush. If possible, I want to go and talk to them and say, okay, I hope you guys are also discussing condoms. I hope you're discussing this kind of contraceptives. I hope you're discussing that. Instead of running, let me go.
In real life, Florence, can you do that? I think that's what Josephine was saying.
It's what we should be doing, because we failed. We have failed.
Cathy, I will answer for Florence. Florence will actually do it. I'm sure she'll stand in between them and said, for you, do you have this? But my question then
and I don't agree to taking back our dogs.
Yeah, if I see a boy and a girl, a young boy and a young girl standing together, number one, there are a lot of things you have to ask yourself before you just butt in and say things. But also, even when you do, consider that you're coming in there to threaten them and all of that. It's going to push them to go into a hiding place next time.
Further.
So you have to be very careful about how to do it. I think for me, the best way is to consider sexuality education, like we've all been saying. But actually, let's also look at other ways that we can do it. Well, before we do that, I need to ask, do you think that people understand just how much a pregnancy and a child can affect you if you are not ready?
Yes.
Because I think for some people, it's teenage pregnancy, she has given birth, and so that's it.
Before we close, I want to emphasize how bad this is for teenagers, because children die, girls die, women die because of pregnancies.
True. Yes,
They are
complications.
just girls are losing their lives because they are pregnant, because they have decided to carry through with the pregnancy and they die in childbirth, or they have an
abortion.
We get over 1,500 abortions per year in Uganda, and those are the ones that we know about.
From the most unsafe places, and I should also tell you,
like that hunger situation that you talked about. Even me, I had a school experience where some girl, I think we saw like a baby wrapped up in a placenta, pushed in a pit battery, crying, and it was very traumatizing. But I don't even know how desperate that girl must have been to go to that length and do that thing alone. It's just annoying. So before even we come to how your education is interrupted, how you feel shame,
your health, the body,
how you could get HIV, how all these things, you could die. Die.
Actually, many die. Many girls, young girls die.
Many die. So we need to confront these issues.
And that's without us actually speaking about the violence that's involved for many of these girls. So there's like a whole, there's a whole big thing around teenage pregnancy.
Yeah, because remember when they're locked in like these relationships, they don't have power, There's that imbalance of power, no access to contraception, and the pressure even on the girls to prove their fertility. So you can imagine, violence definitely is going to come in.
Yeah.
Because she's young.
Because they're all not ready. They are young. Yeah, many times that the girl and the boy actually are very young. They are not informed. They don't know what decisions to take. They don't know where to go, which authorities to talk to. I mean, also the fear of maybe the parents being reported, or even the boy being reported. So many times you find that the cases, so many in the communities, but not everyone knows about them. I mean, we know what is reported, but if you went into even just our neighborhoods, just around, you would find that there are cases, but unfortunately, no one knows about them.
And people are always blaming young girls. Young girls, they love sugar daddies. They do this, but no one ever comments.
I think we need to speak to the boys and the men.
Are preying on the young girls. No one ever mentions that. They're like, oh, young girls. Oh, they gave in. It's their fault. Why did they? But no one talks about the men who are preying on the young girls. And it's mostly older men going after these teenagers or pre-teens. Horrible. So who is talking about the preying men who are preying on these young girls?
Okay, guys, because we're going to close now. We are close to almost an hour. Why should we care? It might seem to some people like, this is something that's so far from them. Why should they care? And what can they do? What can we do as individuals? You, me, all of us. What can we do? Aside from having conversations like this, I mean, I think you guys have done stories on the same. Cathy, you're doing as much as you can with UNICEF. We'd have talk shows where we talk about all of this. But how much more can we do? And how do we get other people talking about this or doing the best that they can for these girls?
You know what? We can't stop talking. We can't stop. I know, like one time I did a story where I had like dancing child marriage away in Busoga. There's this drama group going around talking to community.
Yes, that was a UNICEF visit. Yes, I remember.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I worked with UNICEF on that story. Like, dancing child marriage away. It has to continue. We can't stop, talking to people, doing the dramas. In this area, the drama was really helping. Even that young girl that I talked about, whose mother was like, well, for her, she's married at 14. Me, I got married at 13. At least she was saved from the marriage and she was able to go back to school. And the mom actually realized that, oh my God, she's not even getting, an income generating activity. And she was like, wow, I can earn money. You guys, the beauty about realizing that you can earn your own money, especially if you're a woman, it is so freeing, it's so liberating. And the woman was just, doing farming, I'm selling these things now, I'm selling that. And you could see she was happy and excited. And like, oh, even the man is no longer with us now. You see, the daughter came back, she's in school. So I think we should really, we should give these girls opportunities. And of course, yes, obviously, sexuality education is going to help us so much. Young girls need to understand their bodies. They need to know where the vagina is. They need to know where the vulva is. They need to know what part of the body does. They need to know if a man approaches me, what organ does he have that will, make me pregnant? And how can we avoid a pregnancy? I feel like as young girls, when growing up, we need to have all this information and we make informed choices. And we need to know that we have the power to say no. That is something we do not have growing up. That power of saying no. Because you're shy, you don't want to say no to the guy, you don't want, I wish we could have that. I don't know how we're going to have it, but it all has to come from talks, endless talks, and giving us the information and knowing that if I go to a health facility, I'm not going to be judged. And that's why we need, services tailored around young girls, young boys, tailored. And, if someone goes and talks, these things are here in the developed countries. Developing world, we are catching up, obviously, but it needs to be there. Girls need to go, because even here still, pregnancy is still occur, but at least there are many more, they have reduced. Because in the UK anyway, we have, I've left the UK now, the highest pregnancy rate, but it's still lower compared to, Uganda. And you see at the services, they have like adolescent services specific for adolescents. You can go to a health worker without being judged, because they know these things are happening. But in Uganda, go to a health worker when you're below a particular age, even when you're an adult and you're going to buy a condom or contraceptives, God is downsizing you because they are now already in your bedroom.
People look at you.
They're looking at you, somebody's going to have sex. Sex is a sin. No, sex has come, it has happened, and not everyone is going to have it in marriage, guys. Period. Accept that. If you can accept that and forget that thing of moral.
We still live under a certain bubble, a certain cover of ignorance that I don't know how we actually go about dealing with that one. But some of the comments that have come in, Mark Patrick, who says, JK, Anne, Florence, and Catherine, thanks for this great topic. These are serious topics that need to be discussed extensively.
Yeah,
I think poverty plays a huge role in teenage pregnancy and in teenage marriage and teenage pregnancy. You will realize that regions of which are poverty-stricken stand a higher chance of teen forced marriages and eventually pregnancies. He also goes on to say, regions which are poverty-stricken are more disadvantaged, and lots of girls tend to get forced into early marriage. Besides, teenage pregnancies are more rampant in these areas. For the urbanities, we need to have a candid conversation with children about sex and sexuality. Girls can still have sex and not get pregnant. For a fact, children lately get into sex activities in very early teens. All right, closing remarks from those of you who want to give them, and then we can close.
Yeah.
Today I read something. I watched something interesting from Maya Angelou about. She was saying something about history cannot be unlived, but faced with courage, it need not be lived again. So for me, it's about support. If it has happened, let's not chase our girls from home. Let's not marry them off. Let's not castigate them. It means there was a gap somewhere, and it's also an opportunity to now start afresh. If you didn't give that information to the child, now is your time to make the right decisions and try to correct a wrong. Support them, let them go back to school. Let's not hear the thing of you need to be reported if you're a healthcare worker and you're treating a child, a teenager. So let's support our children. Let's empower the girl child, because if I am an informed, empowered mother, I'm most likely to have an empowered, girl child or boy child. Not going to do the things. It's a cycle. This 14-year, the woman who's married at 13 thinks it's okay to marry their daughter at 14. So empower your children, empower the women especially. We cannot emphasize this.
Yeah. Exactly. So anyway, I'll close. Unless you guys have something else to add, Cathy and Joseph.
Yeah, just one.
I need Cathy to say something before you close.
Okay, so just to build up on what's Anna's side, I think we need to empower our girls. We've been to communities where girls, parents have forced their girls into marriage, but the girls have stood their ground and said, no, I won't get married. I'll report you to the authorities, or I'll go to the local council or the police, and the parents actually have been talked to and sensitized. You know, sometimes also the parents, we're adults, but we are not very knowledgeable about most of the things, the consequences. But if you sat down this parent and you talk to them, I think they can change their mind, they can change their behavior, and we can also change our culture. But ending teenage pregnancy, early child marriage or early marriage, we need to work with many people. We need the politicians, we need the traditional, culture leaders, we need the religious leaders, because people believe in them, people believe in the messages they provide. Of course, the media is always, doing their part. So I think everyone has a role to play, and if all these partners, came together, we can end this. Really, it's an issue, it's a big issue. We need to tackle it as a country the way we tackled HIV and AIDS, and people got to know, okay, it's a big problem.
All right, thanks, Cathy. Florence, before you close, I was doing some reading on the Plan International page and a couple of other pages before this conversation. And one of the last lines on the Plan page says, teenage pregnancy increases when girls are denied the right to make decisions about their sexual and reproductive health and well-being. Girls must be able to make their own decisions about their bodies and futures and have access to appropriate healthcare services and education. At the very least, a girl should be able to say no. At the very least, a girl should be able to, but she can only say no if she is empowered, knowledgeable in the very least about what will happen to her when this and this happens.
Exactly.
And I think that knowledge comes from everybody that is around that girl. So I think it is important that you don't look at the young girls that are in your area as, oh, my sister's children or my so-and-so's children, or, you know, I think it's important you take sexuality education away from the people in your circle to as many people as you can reach, just to let them know of, you know, this is what can happen and this is how you help yourself. This is how you help another girl to do better. The way we are taking out menstruation matters and just speaking to young women about this, these should be conversations. When I see a lot of people starting up mentorship programs and things, everybody starting up a mentorship program is talking to young girls about how to, you know, be purposeful, how to plan for the future, I mean, you'll have your grand plan and it's well laid out, and then you'll get pregnant and that's it. You know, that's just the end of all of your plans, because no one's told you that, okay, you've gotten pregnant, you've had a baby, life doesn't end there. This is how you get back on track. So even for people starting up organizations on mentorship and all of that, it is important that conversations like this form part of the conversations that you have with these young women. Yes. Florence, please.
Yes, thank you, ladies. You've practically said everything. I can't even, you know, add any more to the conclusion. Sorry, Anne?
That's so
remember that we need to allow abortion. But continue. That's
and that's the thing. Uganda's
that's a whole topic on its own.
That's a topic on its own.
It's a whole topic on its own, and we shall talk about it. But it's mostly happening amongst the teenagers, and they're the ones who are dying the most. You know, all the maternal deaths that we have in our country, you find that most are teenagers, and it's because of abortion, which takes up a big percentage. So, guys, let's be realistic. And besides, what happen if we talk to girls and give them contraceptives, and that's it. Allow young girls in schools to have the option. Put them there like you're putting condoms, put other contraceptives and everything. A girl will choose. And when someone is empowered, they're like, I don't even need this, you know. Somehow you find something useless because, you know. But when there is that mystery around sex, young girls want to explore. They won't find out. And when they won't find out and they don't have contraceptives, pregnancy, out of school, and then society judges without even knowing, you know, what to do. So, ladies, this has been really important. You know, these are issues we really care about personally. And we shall continue having this conversation. Thank you so much, Cathy.
And they affect anyone,
Yeah, you guys
are girls, you know, for you.
Exactly. You guys are doing a great job, as well as other development organizations. They really do their best. And keep on keeping on, because we need a donor support. We need investments in this. We need money, in as much as, you know, it's cost effective, but sometimes we need the money to do all this. So, see you tomorrow for another insightful conversation. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as YouTube. We love you guys, and goodbye. Keep on waving, guys.
Bye.
Cathy joined us saying, I'm giving you 30 minutes. She's giving us a whole
hour. By the way, now that this show has lasted almost 1 hour, in these 60 minutes, about 1,400 young girls have been married under the age of 18. Sad.
That has wiped my life.